All right, so you know how sometimes you're like at a party
Yeah.
and it's all buzzy and you see someone you've been wanting to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not sure how to like start the conversation.
Right.
This is what we're diving into today.
Sure.
We're looking at the American English podcast,
Okay.
and they've got all these phrases that can help make those first interactions
Right.
go smooth.
Booly, yeah.
And it's interesting because I think sometimes we think of those opening phrases as just like
Yeah.
polite noise.
Small talk.
Yeah,
But they're actually super important.
they are.
They set the tone for the whole conversation.
Okay, so say I'm at this party
Right.
and I want to be friendly,
Mm.
but not too eager.
Yeah.
Is how's it going
Yeah.
better than what's new?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
How's it going? It kind of focuses on how they're feeling right now. Like you're
Right.
interested in their well-being.
Right.
What's new
Mhm.
is more general.
Yeah.
It could feel a little impersonal at a party, I think.
Okay, so how's it going? Is it good like
Yeah, I think
kind of neutral but friendly?
exactly.
All right, so let's say we've been chatting for a few minutes
Okay.
and I need to excuse myself.
Yeah.
But how do I do that without sounding rude?
Oh, that's where these phrases are so helpful.
Ah,
You don't want to just say goodbye.
right.
That can seem abrupt.
Right. Yeah.
You could say something like, "It's been great chatting, but I need to catch up with mention someone else at the party.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can continue this conversation later."
That's good.
Yeah, it gives them a reason,
Yeah.
and it shows you're still interested in talking to them.
Okay, so now we've done the greeting and the goodbye.
Right.
But what about those times when you need to ask for something?
Yeah.
Like directions or what time a shop closes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that without sounding demanding?
Well, you want to be polite, but also clear.
Okay.
The podcast gives this example. Excuse me, could you tell me where the nearest coffee shop is?
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like you're asking
You're asking.
nicely, but you're still getting your point across.
Yeah, it's not like you're beating around the bush.
Yeah, exactly.
You're being direct.
Okay, so we're using those magic words, but we're also,
Yeah.
being clear about what we need.
For sure.
Okay, so now let's say the conversation is going well.
All right.
And I want to express an opinion,
Yeah.
but I don't want to come across as too strong.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to shut down the conversation.
Right, exactly.
So phrases like, "I think that,"
Mm.
or "in my opinion," can be really helpful.
Okay.
They show that you're sharing your viewpoint,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not saying it's the only right one.
I like that.
Yeah.
In the podcast, they gave this example.
Yeah.
I think that movie was fantastic. What did you think?
Oh, that's a good one.
It opens it up for them to respond.
Right. And it shows you're actually interested in what they thought.
Exactly.
You're not just talking at them.
Yeah.
You're having a conversation.
So now what if they disagree? Is that like a conversational danger zone?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it can actually be a good thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's opportunity to practice disagreeing gracefully.
Okay, so instead of like dreading disagreement,
Mm-hmm.
we should embrace it.
I think so.
But how do we disagree without it getting heated?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The podcast, they talk about using a phrase like, "I'm not so sure about that."
Okay.
It's softer than saying, "I disagree."
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and you can explain why you feel differently.
So they gave an example.
Yeah.
Someone says, I think online learning is just as effective as classroom learning.
Right.
And the other person says, I'm not so sure about that. I find it harder to stay motivated. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's like a potentially controversial topic,
Mm-hmm.
but they're handling it really well.
Yeah. They're respecting each other's viewpoints
Exactly.
and keeping the conversation going.
It's like a dance.
It is.
You don't want to step on each other's toes.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so what if you do agree,
Hmm.
but you want to say more than just, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Can sound a little,
Yeah, a little flat.
unenthusiastic.
I don't want to sound like a broken record of, I agree.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what else can you say?
You could try absolutely,
Oh,
or I couldn't agree more.
okay.
Those are stronger.
They are?
Or you could say, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it that way before.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It shows you're really listening
It does.
and that you're learning from the conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, but what if you totally miss what someone says?
Uh-huh.
Like maybe it was loud or
Yeah.
I spaced out for a second.
That happens to all of us.
Yeah, and asking them to repeat feels awkward.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So what do you do?
You can use a phrase like, sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat that, please?
Okay.
It shows you're taking responsibility.
I like that.
Yeah.
Instead of making them feel like they weren't clear.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's talk about shopping.
Shopping.
Sometimes I just want to browse,
Yeah.
but salespeople can be a little
Oh, yeah.
pushy.
It can be.
So how do you politely tell them to back off?
A simple, I'm just looking, thank you, can work wonders.
Okay.
It sets a boundary,
Yeah.
but it's still polite.
Like a polite shield.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and what about fitting rooms?
Ooh, fitting room.
Those 3 words, how does it look?
Oh, yeah.
I dread them.
I know what you mean.
It's like a trap.
It can feel like that.
So how do you respond?
You could say, I'm still deciding,
Okay.
or I need a moment to see how it feels.
It buys you some time.
Yeah, it gives you space to think.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's like having a secret weapon
it is.
in those awkward situations.
For sure.
I'm loving all these phrases.
Me too.
It's amazing how a few words can make such a difference.
It really is.
Okay, so we've talked about greetings,
Uh-huh.
goodbyes,
Yeah.
asking for information, expressing opinions,
Right.
disagreeing gracefully,
Yeah.
seeking clarification.
And even handling those tricky shopping scenarios.
That's a lot.
It is.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
Well, luckily for us,
Yeah,
this deep dive isn't over yet.
that's right.
We'll be back soon to delve into even more essential phrases
Sounds good.
for those everyday moments that make up our lives.
I'm looking forward to it. So last time we were talking about how these phrases can help with smooth interactions.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that sometimes the same phrase can sound totally different,
Oh, yeah.
depending on how you say it.
It's true.
Like you can say thank you,
Right.
but if you say it through gritted teeth,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound very grateful.
It sounds sarcastic.
Yeah.
Like you don't really mean it.
So it's not just the words themselves, it's
Yeah.
the delivery too.
It's everything.
And the podcast we're looking at, it doesn't really go into much detail about that.
No, it doesn't.
So maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Like, what are some things to keep in mind when you're delivering these phrases?
Well, one thing is your tone of voice.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're apologizing,
Right. You need to sound sincere.
exactly.
Like, if you forgot a friend's birthday
Hmm.
and you're all like, oh, sorry about that, things have been crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very sincere.
No, it sounds like you don't really care.
Right.
But if you make eye contact and you sound genuine,
Yeah,
and maybe you even put your hand on your heart,
that would show.
that shows you really mean it.
It conveys true regret.
It's like the words are the ingredients,
Okay.
but
Well,
the
just-
delivery is the cooking.
I like that analogy.
Like a bad chef can ruin even the best ingredients.
Exactly.
So what else besides tone of voice?
Body language is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Like imagine someone saying, I'm so excited about this project,
Okay.
but they're slumped over and avoiding eye contact.
Yeah,
You wouldn't believe them.
right. Their body's saying something totally different.
So you need to have good posture
Yeah.
and look engaged.
Even when you're just saying simple phrases,
Absolutely.
it shows you're present in the conversation.
It does.
Oh, man. I'm totally guilty of zoning out sometimes.
I think we all are,
Yeah,
but it's something to be aware of
it is.
because it can make the other person feel like you're not listening.
Okay, so I need to work on my active listening body language.
Yeah,
This is like a whole secret layer of communication I never even thought about.
it is.
And then there's cultural differences too.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Like what's considered polite in one culture
Oh.
might be rude in another.
Exactly.
And this podcast, it focuses on American English,
Mhm.
but even within English-speaking countries,
Yeah,
things can vary.
they can.
So even if I use the right phrase,
What?
I could still accidentally offend someone
You could.
if I'm not aware of those cultural nuances.
It's important to be mindful of that.
Yeah, this deep dive is making me want to learn more about cross-cultural communication.
You do?
It's fascinating.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about delivery and culture,
Mm-hmm.
but there's another layer I want to touch on.
Okay.
Emotions.
Emotions.
Like how our own feelings can affect how we use these phrases.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you're already annoyed,
Yeah,
even good morning can sound sarcastic.
totally.
Or if I'm feeling super anxious,
Mhm.
that I'm just looking thank you in the store, it
Yeah.
might come out all high-pitched and desperate.
Yeah, and then it defeats the purpose.
Exactly.
You're not actually browsing calmly.
No.
You're trying to escape.
And on the flip side,
Mm-hmm.
if you're genuinely happy to see someone,
Yeah,
even a simple hey
right.
can sound really warm and welcoming.
It can.
So it's not just about knowing the words.
No,
It's about being aware of our own emotional state.
I think that's key.
Self-awareness is so
That's
important.
good.
It's like the phrases are tools.
Okay.
but you are the craftsman.
I like that.
And a skilled craftsman knows their tool
Yeah.
and their own strengths and weaknesses. This is getting pretty deep.
It is.
We started with what's a good phrase to use.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about self-awareness and cultural sensitivity.
That's the beauty of a deep dive.
It is.
You never know where it's going to take you.
But let's bring it back to the phrases for a minute.
Okay.
Any final thoughts from the podcast that stood out to you?
One thing they said was that there's no one right way to say something.
Oh, yeah?
Context is everything.
That's true.
What works in one situation might not work in another.
That's kind of daunting, though.
It can be.
How do you even learn all that context stuff?
By observing.
Observing.
Yeah, pay attention to how people use language in real life.
So like people watching, but for language.
Exactly.
Instead of judging outfits,
Yeah.
I'm analyzing phrases.
I love it.
Okay, but seriously, are there specific things we should be looking for?
So should-
Jay?
Notice how people's tone changes
Mhm.
depending on who they're talking to.
Okay.
Like, are they talking to their boss or their friend? And pay attention to their body language.
Yeah.
Do they seem comfortable or uncomfortable?
Mm-mm.
Excited or bored?
Okay.
Those are all
Okay.
clues.
And listen for variations in phrases too. Like we
Yes.
talked about thank you,
Right.
but there's also thanks and I appreciate it.
And you're a lifesaver.
Yeah, they all have slightly different vibes.
They do.
It's like a masterclass in communication
You
happening all around us.
We'll just have to pay attention.
I'm excited to start practicing this.
Me too.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground,
Mm-hmm.
from simple greetings
Mhm.
to the complexities of delivery and culture.
It's been quite a journey,
It has.
but there's still more to explore.
Well, luckily for us,
Yeah,
we've got one more part of this deep dive to go.
that's right.
We'll be back soon to tackle even more everyday phrases.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we've talked about a lot in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
Phrases for everyday situations,
Mm-hmm.
how delivery can change the meaning,
Right.
and even how culture and our own emotions play a role.
It's been a lot to unpack.
It has.
Hasn't it?
Yeah, it's like I came in thinking, give me some magic phrases
Yeah.
to sound smart,
Right.
but it's way more complex than that,
It is.
which is actually kind of cool.
I think so.
It makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it's like learning a whole new way
Yeah.
to see the world.
Through language.
Through language. Yeah,
Even if it's your own language.
exactly.
What about you? What stood out to you the most?
I think for me, it's the delivery part.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I never really thought about how
Mhm.
my tone of voice or body language
Yeah,
could be sending the wrong message.
totally.
So that was a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, me too.
It's like we focus so much on what we're saying.
Right.
We forget about how we're saying it.
Exactly.
That's so important.
Okay, so last time we were
Yeah.
saying there's no one right way to say something.
Right.
Because context matters.
Context is key.
But that feels kind of overwhelming.
It can be.
Like, how do you learn all that context stuff?
I think the key is observation.
Observation.
Yeah, like pay attention to how people use language in real life.
Oh, so like people watching, but for language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of judging outfits,
Yeah.
you're analyzing phrases.
Okay, but seriously, are there any specific things we should be watching for?
Sure.
Okay.
Notice how people's tone changes, depending on who they're talking to.
Okay.
Like, are they talking to their boss
Right.
or their best friend?
Yeah.
And pay attention to their body language.
Okay.
Are they leaning in?
Mm-hmm.
Are they making eye contact?
Yeah.
Those are all clues.
And listen for those little variations in phrases, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we talked about thank you,
Yeah.
but there's also thanks, and I appreciate it, and you're a lifesaver.
hmm They all have slightly different meanings.
It's like this whole secret language
Like this.
happening all around us.
Yeah, we just have to pay attention.
So what about those times? When we need to use phrases for like more serious conversations?
Oh, yeah.
Like the podcast focused on everyday stuff,
Right.
but life isn't always easy.
No, it's not.
So what about those tough conversations?
Those are the times when these phrases
Mm-hmm.
can be even more important.
Okay.
Because when emotions are high,
Yeah.
having the right words can really help.
So like if you need to give someone difficult feedback
Mm-hmm.
or you're in a disagreement that's getting heated,
Right.
are there phrases for those situations?
I think phrases that acknowledge the other person's feelings are key.
Okay.
Like, I understand you're frustrated.
Yeah.
Or I hear what you're saying, but
It validates their feelings
Exactly.
without necessarily agreeing with them.
right. It keeps the conversation from escalating.
Yeah. And active listening is important too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like really trying to understand their perspective,
Mhm.
even if you don't agree with it. Yeah.
You could say something like,
Uh-huh.
help me understand why you feel that way.
It's like we're using phrases not just to express ourselves,
Yeah.
but to build bridges,
To connect with
to
people.
connect with people,
Yeah.
even when it's hard.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
So any final thoughts
Let me.
from the podcast or from your own experience?
One thing that really stuck with me
Yeah.
is that language is always changing.
Oh, yeah.
New phrases pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Old ones take on new meanings.
It's like a living thing.
It is.
So we need to stay curious
Yeah.
and adaptable.
Be open to new ways of speaking.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
I love that.
Yeah. Play with language.
Play with language.
It makes it more fun.
It does.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on communication.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's more than just words.
It is.
It's a way to connect with people,
Yeah.
to understand each other,
Mm.
and to build relationships.
So go out there
Yeah.
and communicate with confidence.
With confidence
clarity.
and compassion.
I love that.
That's a great way to end it.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy language learning.